everybody. Not the usual way we start off Darkness Radio, but I'll explain in just a minute. Seems like a few, just a minority of people wanted some sort of statement from me as far as what's going on with Darkness Radio. This isn't normally how I do things, but I'll acknowledge a few people who want to know. And the majority of you who feel you're owed an explanation as to what's going on. So I'll explain what's going on. And while you're hearing my voice most of the time and not hearing Dave's. Dave issued a tweet on the 5th of January, not October. Started off on the right foot here. 5th of January. It said, and this is Dave's tweet, says, "Darkness, Dave, why have you forsaken us?" And it says, "Relax, folks. Info coming soon. 16 years is a long time. Sometimes a person needs to clear his head and reset his compass. You're in great hands with Tim Dennis right now, so sit back, turn down the lights, and enjoy Darkness Radio." So at that point, Dave had just said that he was taking a break. On the 11th, he tweeted, Okay, you want to know where Darkness Dave has gone and why he's not hosting Darkness Radio as of late? Tonight, all will be revealed, 9 p.m. right here, a live video stream. At that point, Dave had released a video online, which is not hard to find. It's available on the YouTube page. It's available on the Darkness Radio Facebook page. It's available pretty much anywhere where Dave's plugged in social media. He did forward me the audio to play here as a bonus show, in all fairness. I did not. There's a reason for that. There are several inaccuracies in there and several things that reflect badly on our business partner here at Stitcher. And I chose not to air it because of that. And I will clear up that discrepancy here shortly. I want to explain something to you. In that video, there were some things also that were a bit disparaging and in my view, unprofessional. I stayed quiet for a reason. And keep in mind, I'm an old radio vet of over 30 years. I know a lot of you think I was just Dave's sidekick and that's all I ever did was push buttons and sit in a corner. Those of you who are new to the show probably think that's all I ever did because you didn't hear my voice very often. That's one of my issues, I guess. And admittedly, that's probably my fault for not being more assertive. I'll give you that. That's not how the show started out, however. The vision of the show, to begin with, was two regular guys exploring the paranormal and having a little bit of fun and some laughs while doing it. That was the vision of the show from the get-go. And in the over 30 years, actually, that I've been doing radio, when someone leaves their station or their post or their position, we wish them well and we wish them the best of luck. You move on, you continue business, and that's that. They go to their new position and they do well and you do well and everyone's fine and dandy. In this case, however, that's not how things ended up. It seems like things got messy on social media and it really shouldn't have. I don't understand why and maybe I'm a dinosaur and maybe it's just me. I didn't understand why speculation, why rumor, and why things that were so wildly out of control of people wanting to know so much. It was just Dave decided to leave. In the video, he explains a couple of things, and I guess I'll address some of those. I won't address any of the personal stuff. I feel that is extremely unprofessional and has nothing to do with you guys. My apologies. And don't take this the wrong way, but even though we do appear on your listening devices and in your homes, in your cars, at your workplace, wherever we appear, that doesn't mean that you're entitled to know every single thing about our personal lives. We choose to give you what we choose to give you. And we're not entitled to know everything about your personal life either. It's a 50-50 split there. With that being said, I stayed silent in the beginning because I was still hoping Dave would come back to the show. I know that may seem a little naive with everything that was going on between he and I, personally. But Keep in mind that in the radio business, in 30 years, I'd had disagreements with a few people, some who had massive egos in the business. That still meant that you showed up to work and you still did your job. Just because you disagreed about something behind the scenes didn't mean that you didn't show up to the job the next day and give it a damn good effort and make a damn fine product. What happened between you and the other person didn't mean that you didn't come to work and perform. Now, to be fair, over the years, Dave and I, we had our occasional tiffs. That happens. It happens whenever you work with somebody. It happens whenever you're friends with somebody. That didn't mean we didn't put on a fine product. I didn't assume this would be any different. Much to my chagrin, it was something different. That's as far as I'll go. And I won't say anything else. He said his piece and has said more than what needed to be said. At the time that I developed COVID, David already decided that, in his words, he was never going to work with me again. That was his words. I had asked him to think it over twice because, in my words, nobody wanted to listen to me by myself and nobody wanted to listen to him by himself. I have numbers. I'm the guy who uploads this show. I'm the guy who edits this show. I'm the guy who sees the back page. And I can tell by the numbers that that's the case. They want to hear us together. And together, we put together a really fine product. And I know that you as the listener want to hear us together. That's the truth. Well, that's not what he wanted. He said, no, life is too short. That's not what he wanted. And to be honest, that is not going to happen. I know it's hard to hear. It's going to be hard to hear. But that isn't what he wants. He threw out in his video, again, which you can go see on any of these different sites, YouTube or the Darkness Radio page, or even his pages, he threw out a scenario in which the show is wrapped, this new show that he wants to launch, Paranormal 60, is wrapped around Darkness Radio. But in there's not really any interaction between him and I. I'll get back to that in a second. So I came down with COVID, and I do tip my hat to him, very much so. He's been very gracious throughout this, despite any tiffs. He stayed in there, despite I went through an extremely rough time with COVID. Ended up having to get monoclonal antibodies as a result of it. Didn't know when I would be back. He doubled down and focused and got through that. I got through my thing. And when I was for sure ready to come back, I came back. And he said, the minute you come back, it's yours. That wasn't what I wanted either. And I want you guys to realize this. My intention was never to have this thing 100%. I didn't want this show 100%. I wanted it 50-50. And I want to explain to you guys something. Everything that I'm telling you today, you can verify by going to different sources. Go back and listen to the archives of the show. The ones that, at least that I've been able to put up. The archive at the beginning of the, season 1, season 2, you hear two guys contributing to the show. And then, of course, after I got laid off by Clear Channel on what they called Black Monday, which was no reflection at the president at the time, but that's what they called it, believe it or not. It was very ironic at Clear Channel at the time, soon to become iHeartRadio. They laid off 7% of the workforce at the time. And I was one of those that got laid off. It was at that time that Dave had to make a move, and he brought in, before that, he had brought in like Adrian Lee and other cast members, but he also had to bring in other cast members as well to kind of fill that void. And of course, he also needed a producer. I think Stan came in to produce at that time as well. So there were other cast members that were brought in to fill in. But really, the heyday of Darkness Radio came after I came back and Mallie came in, and then other members came into the show, Jessica, and we really started to develop a cast where everyone was contributing. One time I had characters too. I had Elmo and Olga Chupacabra, and we had this synergy. We all had this very positive synergy. And I want to say it was between, 2012 and 2014, 2015, something like that, where the show was really cooking. I mean, it was really going, but it took a team effort. And I think that's the era that you guys are really clamoring for. There was a time, too, where those cast members, for one reason or another, dropped off. And believe me, I miss them, too. I bring Mallie on whenever I can, and Mallie will be on today's episode. And I think the energy and the synergy that you miss is that tightness, that closeness, that relationship. That's what you're missing. Part of what Dave says is true, that closeness, tightness, synergy hasn't been there for a couple of years. I wouldn't say 10 years. That's one of the things I want to refute. 10 years is not accurate. I'll give you an example of why it's not accurate. I'll give you a date. February 19th, 2018. May seem kind of an odd date. It's a little under 4 years ago. I just built the studio that you're hearing out of this microphone. We had Dr. Michio Kaku on. The book was The Future of Humanity. And I built this studio at a house that was not even a mile and a half away from his at the time. Now, little did I know that he had plans to move not too long, soon after that, to move 45 miles away, but I was about to find that out shortly. But the whole idea was I was going to build the studio so the two of us could be in the same studio so that we'd be closer. Because we had been doing this program remotely where the two of us weren't even in the same room. And to me, it was obvious as an audio file. And it drove me nuts, to be honest, because there's no face-to-face contact. It just feels cold. You can't see the person across from you. You can't relate. You can't really hear. I mean, you can hear, but you can't hear that well. And to be honest with you, you're not seeing your partner's reactions. If you have a question, if you need to communicate with that person across from you, if you need to handle a guest a certain way or you want to change directions, there's a lot of inside baseball here, but you can't really do it well if you need to. So we had Michio Kaku on, and I had this brand new studio I built. It wasn't real expensive. Keep that in mind. We don't make it, I hate to bring up money. Money, by the way, bringing up money is the worst thing in the world. It's such a no-no when it comes to this business. I mean, we all struggle. If you're doing this business for money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. I can't tell you how many years I've been in radio and actually made decent money. I mean, it's just so stupid to bring up money in the first place. But I built this cool little studio. I mean, just a desk and a decent table, but really great mics and a good board and decent computer system. And we were off and running. We had a really great sound for the first time since we'd been away from iHeart. So I thought, you know what? Cool. Future is good. We're looking at a brighter, tighter future. This is good. Not soon after I built the studio, Dave moved away, and I understand. Family, all that. There we go. He had to do his thing, and I got that. I was a little disappointed, though, because I did build the studio with the idea that we were going to be a tighter duo, that work could take place in that studio. But I built it with the idea, too, that I'm getting closer to my friend and that we're going to be closer, not only work-wise, but closer friend-wise. You don't put that kind of effort into something like that, I guess, for just anybody. So I guess I'm addressing the comment for the people who haven't watched the video that Dave said we hadn't been friends for at least 10 years is kind of a shock. It hurt. It hurt. I guess I'm still shaking that one off. So after COVID, I knew I had to forge on. I decided to keep quiet. I was going to be professional. It's what I had to do. Again, I asked if we could talk. Dave said no. He was tired. He was exhausted. He felt like there was nothing to talk about. I felt like at that point, we would get back around to it. We would get back to the point where maybe we could come back to this thing, and I was still going to stay silent just to respect him and to respect the fact that there might be one more chance to maybe sew this thing up. When the video came out, I knew there was nothing. There was no chance. And then all of a sudden, my future's being planned for me on this video. And then there's wild rumors about, well, Tim pushed out Dave and all this nonsense. And even Dave has confirmed, and I want to thank him for that. Even Dave has confirmed that, no, I didn't push Dave out of the seat as Darkness Radio and as the host of Darkness Radio. And no, there's not been any of that. And again, I want to tell Dave, thank you, because that's wow, that's really over the top. And I want to thank Dave, too, because he is right. He has been forwarding me leads. He's been forwarding me guest ideas. He's been forwarding me stories here and there. I've also been digging up a lot of my own leads and my own guests and my own story ideas. I also want to address the people who have been emailing me and thinking that I'm turning this into a wrestling show, which I think is mighty ridiculous. I brought in Beer City Bruiser as not only an investigator, but a friend. He's a friend, number one, an investigator, number two, and he just happens to be a wrestler for Ring of Honor, which, by the way, folded back last year and might potentially come back in April, but he's taking independent bookings, by the way, if you're looking for an independent wrestler to come into your territory, but that's beside the point. But Bruiser knows his stuff, and we have good chemistry. So I brought him in. But the intention, as I've stated it before, was I was going to bring in multiple people. I was hoping to bring in Mallie on a regular basis, but she's got a lot of life stuff going on. So I bring in her in occasion. I want Bruiser as a semi-regular to come in. But where we're at right now is the thing that you guys want the most. And believe me, in a perfect world, I'd want it too, is to have Dave and I interacting on a show and things would be fine. That isn't where we're at. And I don't think we're ever going to be there. I hate to be the one to sit down and tell you that. And I also want to tell you, it's not me that's not willing to work here on that. I've reached out. I've asked for him to come back and work with me. That's not an option at this point. He does want to wrap his show around the Darkness Radio flag. He also stated in his video, and I'm paraphrasing here, this isn't an exact quote, that he's not afraid if another business opportunity came that to just bust his head through the door and look back to see if someone else is behind him. My fear is that if he wraps his flag around Darkness Radio again and Darkness Radio isn't important enough for him, that he's gone again. And I don't know that that's fair to you guys. At this point, I don't care. I don't care. I know at this point he doesn't care about me. I know that much. I don't know what I do with that, but I at this point, I'm still trying to figure out, I know what I want to do with this show. I have a clear vision of that. I don't know what to do about this situation. I'll be honest with you. I'm just being honest with you. When Dave made the video, he made it seem like he didn't know what he wanted. I think it's very clear what he wants. It was clear before he even made it. The things I want to make clear that were inaccurate about the video that need to be made perfectly clear have to do with different business partners that I still have business with that, let's just put it this way, would damage my reputation with them. They have to do with Davidson Media Company and Law and Fasora, who own 1400 and 1470, the AM station where Darkness Radio first started, that I was operations manager at and greenlit the show when it first started. That station did not fold in a year, like he stated in the video. We did the show out of the KLBB 1470 studios that were located in Edina for 2.5 years, from January 2006 until I believe it was June of 2008. Then we went over to iHeart in August of 2008, before the state fair there. I believe Davidson no longer has control of 1400 and 1470. They were bought out by Law Infosora, so they now own both signals and operate now out of Minneapolis. I know that's not relative to anybody there, but I still have business relationships with that organization. So I want to make that clear so that if they see the video or look at the video, they don't kind of freak out on me. The other one has to do with our partner here that hosts this show, Stitcher. This is the one that may cause a little heat. Folks, and I hate talking about money more than anything, as I've already stated. Not going to tell you how much, not going to tell you when. Well, I'll tell you when, but I'm not going to tell you how much. But we were paid in November. Stitcher is paid up with us as far as anything contractual. We were out of contract with Stitcher. I believe it was as of June or July. That's when our contract ran out with Stitcher. They were gracious enough to continue selling advertising for this show. They then settled up with that advertising and stopped selling advertising because we had been out of contract for quite some time. And they didn't want to continue selling advertising with a client that could skip out on them at any time. So they settled up with us in October, paid us out in November 20th. That's why there's no more money coming in. Should we decide to move ahead with a contract, meaning we as in Darkness Radio, then there's more advertising coming in. That's the truth. As far as Stitcher goes, they're a good company. They paid up. As far as Stitcher Premium goes, Stitcher Premium was written into the contract and was paid out only as part of the contract. I won't get into specifics with the contract because it's nobody's business, but let's just say Stitcher's paid up. And that's what needs to be known there. So I guess I'm going to conclude this statement by simply stating Dave has a program that he states is coming out February 1st called Paranormal 60. His wish is that he wraps it around Darkness Radio. I have a decision to make. I'm going to be honest. I haven't made that decision yet. I know it's getting late. The hour is drawing near. To be honest with you, have had another issue with my foot. I continue to have an issue with that Charcot foot. Not in a great place with it right now. Especially coming after COVID, it's been one after the other with me, and I'm doing my best to push through health issues and continue to put out programming for you and do the best job I can. And I'm hoping you guys are enjoying the stuff I'm putting out for you. So that's what's going on with that. Again, everything I've told you here is searchable. You can back it up with facts. There's some things to think about in the coming days. There'll be some updates in the coming days as to what's going on, both on Dave's side and on my side. And just know at this point, I'm the one who's in control of Darkness Radio. And I'll be the one hosting from here on out for Darkness Radio until further notice. I hope, and it's my hope and wish, that you'll continue on this journey with me, because I really do have some exciting stuff coming up. I've got some great guests coming up. I'm hoping that you want to continue on this ride with me, that you do know that this is not going to become a wrestling show, which I find extremely funny. I'm hoping to build a family of co-hosts that you can look forward to on Supernatural News on Wednesdays, and that I'm hoping to bring in some old friends, that I'm hoping to get back to the spirit of the show the way it was. I just know that you stick around and have some fun with us. With that being said, let's get into today's show. And today's show features an old friend. Here's Mallie Fox, and here's Supernatural News. Hello, everybody, and welcome into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis. It is a Supernatural News Wednesday, and you know what? We're going to talk wrestling the entire time. We're going to talk wrestling. No, I'm kidding. I'm bringing in this week The one, the only Mallie Fox. Mallie, how are you doing?
I'm fine, but I was like, this would be a one-sided conversation. It was wrestling.
I was going to do a bit where I was going to say, so what have you been up to lately? And you were just going to tell me you were training to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I'm wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling. I'm training to be a wrestler, just to get under a few people's skin.
Yeah,
because that's how I roll, Mallie. That's how I roll. We've got a very interesting show for you today, folks. Lots of crazy stuff going on in the world. We'll go all over the board today. Mummies and Chupacabra and Loch Ness Monster. Oh my, even Havana syndrome, and we'll go all over the supernatural board today. But first, let's catch up with Mallie. Don't say anything about wrestling, by the way. Just don't say anything about wrestling. There are people that are so ass-chapped right now. It's ridiculous. I'm kidding. I'm having fun.
Well, actually, I do have one thing that has to relate to wrestling in a weird kind of way.
Oh, please tell.
So, okay, I think the last time we talked, you knew that I adopted a Dalmatian, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Cutest dog ever, cutest puppy. Mm-hmm. And what she likes to do to my poor other dog, Marla Hooch,
yep,
is that she likes to get on the edge of the couch, like it's like the top rope in wrestling, and jump from it and land on her.
Owie.
So she does this all the time to Marla. Thank gosh, Marla is like that girl is big. She is thick.
Yeah. So
she can handle it, but it's just like she loves to jump from the top of the couch and the edge, like the backside, and just whoop. So I always think of a wrestling move when she does that.
Well, God love you.
I know. I don't have much of a life because all I do is talk about Clarabelle and Marla Hooch. I mean, I have all I talk about is my dogs.
That's nothing wrong with that at all. You have some cute puppies over there.
I do. I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. My fur babies.
Now, I do have to ask, the last time I think we talked was probably around the holidays, and
mm-hmm.
you were having issues with the elf on a shelf.
Oh, my God.
How did that ever resolve?
Oh, it didn't. I had to keep doing it. So a lot of people were super sweet, and they sent me some suggestions of like what to do.
Yep.
But I have no idea why they thought seriously that the elves should move every time they leave the room. So as soon as we took down the Christmas, or as soon as Christmas happened, I think we shortened their lifespan, and we were just like, Cookie and Dude, they had to go. It's Christmas Day. Sorry. Because usually we would like go a little bit longer. Like when the Christmas tree was put away, or tossed out, that was when, they would go back to the North Pole. And this time we're like, nope, sorry, vacation cut short, COVID, they had to get back.
COVID. You put little masks on them.
I know, right? But I think one no longer believes, because she wasn't very excited about it. She was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. When before the previous years, it was like they run in the door. Where are they?
Oh, no.
I know. So, but I think Luke still believes. So, well, yeah, he does, because he still does that. So next year, I'm hoping maybe that it won't be the case, and maybe I can pass them down to like one of my siblings, where they could do it to their child and get them addicted to it. And that would be like my older sister kind of revenge to them. So,
well, there you go.
I know, right? Before it was always just get them the loudest toy for their kid. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to be the elves.
You know what? I was inspired by you. So I went out and I got Snoop on a Stoop. Have you seen this one?
No, I have not.
It is actually Snoop Dogg with a J in his mouth, and he's green.
Oh.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to, speaking of Snoop, the Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah, yep.
I am looking old school, looking forward to it.
I am too.
I think it's going to be awesome. I'm sure the younger generation is like, who is this?
Yeah, really.
But I'll be having like flashbacks and we're like, yeah.
Yeah, there's no Drake or anything like that. But yeah, I am too. I think it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. The fact that there is a 4-minute trailer out there.
I know, I saw it.
Yeah, for a Super Bowl halftime show is amazing in itself. Because if you remember, before Prince was on the Super Bowl. He actually did 2 commercials. Which
I don't remember that.
You don't remember those? Yeah, they were quick. I mean, they were like 15-second commercials. And I was surprised that they could even get him to do those. But, I guess he was trying to, for lack of a better term, drum up a little interest. I think people thought at that point in his career, he was, he wasn't going to play the hit, so to speak. But he did, I still think, there was and I know we're way off topic. I'm going to
Right. Sorry, guys. This isn't paranormal talk we're doing right now.
We're probably going to get emails. But, there was I think it was Hoda and Jenna had a topic about who was the best Super Bowl halftime show. And they were saying Beyonce and Bruno Mars. That doesn't ring true with me. I don't feel it in my soul. I really did think that Prince was the best one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because he's gone that I wax nostalgic for it, But there's something about performing out in the rain with an electric guitar that's kind of taking your life in your own hands. I don't know how many people play guitar out there, but, when you even have semi-moist fingers and you're playing the guitar, you get a shock. And I can't imagine going out there in a full-blown Miami rainstorm and, playing guitar. And then he wanted everything amped up to 11 on top of it. So, I don't know. That's paranormal, taking your life in your own hands in a rainstorm.
Well, he definitely is one of a kind.
That's for sure. Speaking of taking your life in your own hands in a rainstorm, that's probably a good place to start off today, Mallie. I'll call an audible here.
Cool.
Let's start with, Bruiser and I had talked last week about this volcano eruption in Tonga, which has a lot of people talking. Boy, oh boy, am I seeing stuff online. I don't know how familiar you are with this volcanic eruption.
Just a tiny bit.
Okay. So there was a volcanic eruption in Tonga a little over a week ago. It's almost 2 weeks ago now. There's a story out there, if it'll ever come up on my iPad here, having to do with thunderstorms surrounding, here it is. It was hours long after that volcanic eruption, and there are pictures now that were taken by the U.S. Geological Survey and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And, there are two sides to every story. There's a kid out there on TikTok, listen to me, the old man shouting in righteous indignation as he shakes his fist at the sky. If you're on TikTok, I
love TikTok.
Oh, I know, right? There's a guy on TikTok who does news, and I was actually turned on to him by a friend. His name is Javante Coker. He goes on by Javante Coker News on TikTok. You got to check him out. He's something special. But he actually points out that this volcano could be something else. I'll just leave it at that. And that it could be something military, not necessarily a volcano. Check him out. Javante Coker, Coker News on TikTok. But a study conducted by scientists at the U.S. Geological Survey and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and Vaisala Incorporated, published in the Geological Society of America's journal Geology, discussed how advances in global lightning detection have provided novel ways to characterize explosive volcanism, which we had that with the St. Paul volcans right across town here, Mallie. I think you remember them.
Oh, yeah. Do they still exist? Because I know that they got into trouble for kissing people.
Yeah, and people may be thinking, what are we talking about? During the St. Paul Winter Carnival, you have the king who makes everything frosty, and then you have the St. Paul Vulcans who come in at the end of the Winter Carnival, and basically they're dressed up like Red Barons on a fire truck, and they heat everything up and melt everything down. But one of the things they do is they go around and they kiss everybody. I think it's indiscriminate kissing, like yes. Mallie said. But they got in trouble for that a few years ago. I think they're still around. They don't, especially in times of a pandemic, I don't think they're locking lips with anybody. But yeah, I think they're still around, if I remember right. But lead author Alexa Van Eaton says that they're providing novel ways to characterize explosive volcanism. It's the perfect storm, Alexa went on to say. Explosive eruptions can create lightning that is detected around the world. Now, if you've seen video of this volcano and its eruption, it rolls out like a mushroom cloud underwater. And it was an underwater volcano, and it is quite alarming. The January 2020 eruption of the Taal volcano, Taal volcano in the Philippines, showed just how powerful a volcanic eruption became as it became electrified, giving off thousands of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes over several hours. Those flashes allowed scientists to shed light on the eruption's behavior. As soon as volcanic ash plume rose high enough to freeze, its electrical activity lit up our sensors, says Van Eaton. Radio waves produced by lightning travel at the speed of light, so unlike other remote sensing tools with longer lag times, we can receive the lightning's data super fast, explains Van Eaton. The scientists also used satellite images and hundreds of photos shared on social media. The eruption took place in a major urban area, so people posted pictures of volcanic lightning as it was happening. Those photos and videos, Van Eaton and colleagues write, reveal a highly electrified region at the base of the umbrella cloud. Looked like a mushroom cloud, not an umbrella cloud, that's for sure. Much more can be done to characterize an eruption when there are camera perspectives from all angles, says Van Eaton, and this thing was captured from a lot of different angles. And understanding the evolution of volcanic lightning helps us recognize the early warning signs of ash hazards to aircraft. However, remote sensing studies like this one only provide a broad brush picture of an eruption, she adds. It is clear that nothing can replace the work of local geologists who know the area like the backs of their hands. It's interesting stuff, and I encourage you, if you haven't seen the pictures of this volcano or even the thunderstorm that results afterwards, just search it out on Google. It's amazing what natural phenomena is out there as opposed to anything else. But just this alone and the way it plays out is something else.
It just kind of sounds like when you watch those movies, like those action-packed movies, like The End of the World. It sounds like a scene from that.
It does, yeah. It did look like the end of the world, to be honest with you, because the shockwave that came out. I mean, everything from it looked like, you remember, like shots of nuclear bombs. Mm-hmm. I mean, it looked something like that. It just looked like something out of The Day After. Do you remember watching The Day After?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like stock footage from that movie. It was just, it's kind of scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where should we move on from here? Well, we can keep with the natural phenomena. We can talk about. Should we get into some cryptids?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Let's talk about Puerto Rico's chupacabras and the fact that they could be something else. There's an article here by a guy who's talking about his first time in Puerto Rico in 2004. He says he now made 9 trips to the island, and he was in hot pursuit of the chupacabras, the resident monsters of the island. He says, without a doubt, it's one of his favorite places. The culture, the people, the food, the history, the beaches, the architecture. And then it closed up on me, the article did.
Oh, no.
Let's see here. There we go. So the writer of the article kind of goes on to talk about how he was introduced into the culture of the chupacabra and learning about it. It was August of 1995 when a woman named Madeline Tolentino, who lived in, is doing it again. I think we may end up skipping this if we can't keep this thing open. That's what she said.
Boy. Technology is not your friend today.
No, it's not. It's doing a weird thing here. I think the chupacabras, Mallie, are trying to keep me from...
Apparently.
Yeah. Now my entire deal shut down. Let's see here.
Oh, no.
Well, we'll see if we can get this thing going again. Here we go. Okay, so Madeline Tolentino is where we left off. He was introduced to her, and he was seeking out information about the chupacabras. She lived in Canavanas, which is close to the northeastern coast of Puerto Rico. Changed everything in this author's life. Madeline's description of the creature that she encountered was close to her mother's home and was disturbing, to say the very least. It was a description eagerly embraced by the island's media and by investigators of monsters and mysteries. Madeline told journalists and researchers that the creature was around 3 feet in height, bipedal, ran in a weird hopping fashion, had large black eyes, bony fingers on each hand, overly long arms and legs, and kind of feathery line running down its back. Or it appeared to Madeline to be a feathery line. It may or may not have been. A young boy employed by Tolentino's husband claimed that he saw the beast up close and personal and maintained that the feathers were, in reality, sharp spines.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. The boy also said that the creature possessed a mouthful of vicious-looking fangs. Not only did the people know of the Chupacabra and its predations, they also now knew what it looked like. Something straight out of their worst nightmares. The legend still exists, but there's something else. A suspicion that the Chupacabras might be nothing less than monstrous, oversized bats. Well, that's different.
Well, I mean, either one is kind of freaky. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I don't know.
Oversized bats, or it is really a Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
With razor sharp feather-like things on his back.
Bats or dogs, either way, not a good thing. Yeah. So the author learned of the theory also immediately when in 2004, they were roaming around the island with monster seeker John Downs of the Sci-Fi Channel show Proof Positive. One of the most fascinating accounts came from a woman named Norca. She was elderly and not in great health at the time, but she was very enthused about being interviewed about her 1975 encounter in Puerto Rico's, I can't even say that, in Puerto Rico's El Yunque rainforest, with a creature that looked far less like the traditional Chupacabra, but far more like a bat of an epic size. As the film crew told her in advance of the show, Norca had painted a picture of the creature she saw. Not only that, she very generously gave the painting to the author to keep. They said they still have one in their room hanging on the wall. Norca told of how when she briefly saw the creature, it appeared bat-like. On top of that, Norca added, farm animals in the same area had been drained of blood, and at the same time of her encounter, it's intriguing to know that more of a few people have reported seeing wings on the Chupacabras. Tales of giant bats can be found not just in Puerto Rico. A wealth of such stories come from the Kayande people of Zambia. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So bats. They could be giant bats, Mallie.
Well, that's different.
That is different. There's just a few more notes here in the story, but I think we can pretty much skip after them. The fact that Chupacabra could be a bat and not a goat-sucking dog is kind of different.
I mean, that's the first time I've heard of it, that it could be that.
Bats with spines.
Ugh.
Some other interesting natural phenomenon, too. I bet you didn't know this. I keep using the word phenomenon. I haven't hit the music yet. You know that? I'm such a bad dude here. I really should be hitting this. Phenomenon. But I haven't.
Mm.
Yeah. Do we really need it, though?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I mean, think we're okay.
You know, I just did that, for people's reference, but I mean, because otherwise I'll get an email saying you didn't hit that.
Oh.
But I did.
Well, I mean, it is tradition.
It is tradition. Sure. I got to ask you, Mallie, if does the hubby deer hunt?
No.
No. Okay. Because this would make it a hard target.
Okay.
flying deer, Mallie. Flying deer. I know here in Minnesota, and when I make my drive to St. Cloud on Saturday mornings, the deer are everywhere. This would make it impossible to drive up to KNSI.
Okay.
Flying deer would pretty much screw me. Probably about 2 months ago, I was on my way to St. Cloud, and one almost ran into the side of my van.
Really?
Yep. I was on my way, and I just happened to catch it. You know how you have that bad feeling when you're on your way and you're driving? I was on my way up to St. Cloud, and I just had this feeling all the way up there. a deer is going to try to run right into you, right into the van. Just keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled. I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see it coming right from my van. So most people would slam on their brakes at that time. If I would have slammed on my brakes, it would have crunched right into the side of my van. Probably would have hit me in the rear quarter panel. So I did what would the opposite of your instinct would tell you to do. I actually sped up and moved myself over to the further over towards the shoulder. So I hit the gas and moved over, and it missed me.
Oh.
Kind of a weird judo move, huh?
Yeah. Well, I got hit on my way to the Palmer. Not by a flying deer, but by a flying turkey.
Really?
Yes. I saw this thing coming my way. And like when you're driving and you duck? Like it was just an instinct. But yeah, I saw this big thing coming my way, and it clipped my antenna, but it was a flying turkey.
Really?
That's a first.
That turkey.
I know.
That is bizarre. There is a video clip out there, Mallie, though, of a deer leaping so high in the air that it appears to be flying.
It's Santa's helpers.
I'm telling you, it's probably Rudolph. I do believe in Rudolph. I do. Originally posted on Twitter by the Wildlands Eco Foundation of India. It's probably just a jetpack, I'm guessing. They probably found technology in India to make deer fly, darn it. I don't know. The footage shows a young deer running up to a road and then leaping several feet into the air before hurtling a considerable distance and eventually landing on its feet again in the foliage on the other side. That is amazing. We need that deer on the Vikings. That's all I got to say.
Oh, yeah.
What's particularly remarkable is the sheer distance it manages to jump, both vertically and horizontally, making it appear as though it's flying through the air. A man can be seen in the clip watching in awe at the animal's gymnastic capabilities. The U.S. gymnastics people went and got it for the Olympics here in February. Just saying. Social media users who viewed and commented on the video were understandably impressed, with many likening the clip to something out of science fiction movie The Matrix. Oh, so it was dodging bullets. Did you see the new Matrix?
No, I have not.
You're not missing anything.
I haven't gone out to see any movies lately.
That one you could have stayed in for if you have HBO Max. Not like I'm giving it a rousing endorsement.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you about something else here in a second.
Okay.
And the gold medal for long and high jump goes to, wrote one user who saw the video. Wow, never seen such a long jump from anybody, but this one is literally flying, wrote another. Trying to be brilliant, I guess, about the flying deer. Again, that wrestling thing. Buckle in, people. Have you seen Suicide Squad? The last Suicide Squad?
Not. Did I? Is that with her and the? Nope, I haven't. I've only seen the first one.
Okay, so you didn't see the one.
I had to think for a second. No.
Okay, so you didn't see the one with Idris Elba and John Cena and.
No.
Okay, all right.
But you know what? John Cena is actually pretty funny in movies.
He is, and he's got that new series on HBO Max. It's Peacekeeper or Peacemaker. I'm trying to remember the name of his character. It's Peace something. Anyways, he's got the new limited series out on HBO Max, and that's really funny.
Okay.
So if you're a fan of the new Suicide Squad movie, the miniseries is actually done by James Gunn too, and it's really funny.
And check it out.
Robert Patrick is in it. He was in Terminator 2 and X-Files and Sopranos, and he plays his father, and he's really funny too. So it's just a funny miniseries all the way around. I'm only like halfway through it, but it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
Another natural phenomena here, Mallie, and this one is kind of weird on its own. It's being called, if I can get to it here. Let's see here. Again, one of those days where the system don't want to work. It's being called a divine miracle. A three-eyed calf was born in India, and it's being taken for the reincarnation of the god Shiva.
Oh, see, now I'm not surprised by that at all.
No?
No, that's kind of cool, though. I like it.
Yeah. Despite some Indian villagers linking the birth of the animal to the reincarnation of Lord Shiva, widely mentioned in Hindu mythology for having a third eye in its forehead, a veterinarian doctor is disagreeing with the comparison. The birth of a calf with a third eye in the middle of its forehead and 4 nostril holes has triggered a lot of curiosity among many people. Oh boy, I'm going to mess this name up, Mallie. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is the Chhattisgarh state of Rajnandgaon district in India. I believe I hit the dismount.
Better you than me trying to pronounce that.
Believing it to be the actual rebirth of the three-eyed Hindu god Shiva, a large number of people are flocking from nearby villages and queuing up to worship the calf with incense sticks, offering coconut and money as per the local culture. The calf was born on January 14th, just as the Hindu festival of harvesting, Makar Sankranti, my apologies, was being celebrated. The timing of the curious calf's arrival has also led to locals developing a perception that the bovine birth holds religious significance. Surprised by the birth of a Jersey breed calf with 3 eyes and 4 nostrils, its owner, Neeraj Chandel, stated that a medical screening of the calf had yielded a clean bill of health. Well, that's good. It's a healthy calf. However, Chandel added that due to its long tongue, the calf is facing difficulties in drinking milk from the cow and that we are helping in feeding her. He said, initially we thought the calf had a wound on its head, but when we checked with a torch, we were surprised. Its nose also has 4 holes instead of 2. Its tail also looks like it's braided, the owner of the calf told the media. Interesting. However, a veterinary doctor, Kamlesh Chandri, said that such cases should be considered miraculous, as such things happen due to the abnormal development of the embryo. So there you go. And I'm looking at a picture. Yeah, it's a cute little calf. Yeah.
Aww.
Poor little Shiva. I mean, I don't know that they named the calf that, but
Right.
I'll just take a swing and say that's probably what they named the calf. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, if you're getting coconut and money out of the deal, wouldn't you just name the calf Shiva?
Well, how's that for an answer? You know what? I don't think they would probably name it Shiva because, I mean, Shiva's already so highly respected. I mean, I'm sure this calf is as well, but I don't know.
But there's a little bit of cash there, Mallie.
It's all about the money with you, huh?
No. I'm just saying that, you know.
It's all about the coconut milk and the money.
When in India with a 3-eyed calf with 4 nostrils, why not play along? You know? Just saying. Oh, look at Shiva. One more story before we go to break here. We launched the Webb telescope not too long ago with the hopes that we could see to the far edges of the galaxy and perhaps figure out how this whole Big Bang thing started, among other questions that needed to be answered. The telescope was launched from French Guiana back on December 25th. It is now orbiting 1 million miles from Earth. Talk about a quick trip there. That's quick. That's gas mileage right there, Mallie. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're in the end of January in 1 month, 1 million miles. That's
pretty good.
Yeah. The most powerful space telescope ever launched just fired its thrusters to reach its permanent cosmic address. So it is set up and in place with its final course adjustment complete. The James Webb Space Telescope is now orbiting around the sun at a distance of nearly 1 million miles, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, around 2 p.m. Eastern on January 24th, Ground operators guided the telescope through its final mid-course correction burn, fine-tuning the James Webb Telescope final orbital position for its science mission, NASA representatives announced in a briefing. For approximately 5 minutes, the team fired the JWST's station-keeping thruster to gently nudge the observatory into place without overshooting its destination. By comparison, the big burn course correction that was performed with a different thruster on December 25th was for a much... See, they keep jumping around here, Mallie. Mm-hmm. Just like the James Webb Telescope, my browser is jumping around at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Where was I here? So it did the fine-tune final orbital position for its science mission. It did the big burn course correction that was performed with a different thruster on December 25th. It was a much more dramatic maneuver and lasted over 60 minutes. Keith Parrish, the observatory manager at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, said at the briefing, when the $10 billion Webb telescope launched on December 25th, 2021, it blasted off from South America. There's no plural in South America, Mallie. Mm-hmm. I should know that by now. On Earth's sun-facing side, and followed the curvature trajectory to reach its destination, known as the second Lagrange point on L2 or L2. I didn't know that either. I didn't pay attention much in school. I can tell you that.
I was out that day. I was out sick.
Were you out that day when we were talking Lagrange point? There are 5 Lagrange points, evidently, around Earth and the sun. Objects at these points and positions rest in a gravitational equilibrium where the pull of gravity and centrifugal force, I think I said that right, from the object's orbit park its body in place. I should take a deep breath here real quick and reset myself. All right. The way I see it in my head.
You got it.
I got it. I'm gonna hit the dismount here.
There we go.
The way I see it in my head is like a Pringles potato chip. Now I follow. See, when you throw food into it, Mallie, now I follow. Jane Rigby said, the way I see it in my head is like a Pringles potato chip. A salty, delicious Pringles potato chip. JWST operations project scientist said at the briefing, in the potato chip scenario, Webb is perpetually inching up one side of the curved chips. Now I'm hungry. And then gently falling back down and traveling up the other curving side, repeating the movement over and over again for the life of the mission, or at least until somebody eats that damn chip. As Webb orbits the sun from the spot, it will also orbit around L2 about once every 6 months in what is known as a halo orbit. This orbit will keep the telescope in the same position relative to the Earth and sun, and it will ensure that the sun won't be eclipsed by Earth. From the telescope's perspective, which could affect the thermal stability of Webb's instruments and hamper its access to solar power. Webb's operators will continue to tweak the telescope's orbit around L2 by briefly firing its thruster about once every 21 days. There's a joke there, but I'll leave it alone. According to the NASA briefing, but even with those frequent small adjustments, Webb's fuel reserves should far exceed the anticipated 10-year mission length. In fact, Webb may even have enough fuel to keep going for about 20 years. So that's encouraging. 20 years of research out of that telescope to see how the universe works.
Well, I hope so for, what was it, $10 billion?
Yeah.
How much did you say?
Yeah, there's a lot of money there. You better get your money's worth out of that deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Webb successfully reached other significant milestones earlier this month. On January 1st, the telescope unfurled its enormous sun shield, a critical component for keeping its instruments cold as they search for faint signals from the early universe. Life science sister site Space.com previously reported Webb's giant gold mirror segments then unfolded from their launch position on January 8th. Over the next 3 months, engineers will align the telescope's primary mirror by aiming its 18 mirror segments at a bright isolated star, then lining up and stacking those images, then aligning the mirror segments to about 1/5000th of a human hair. Wow. So that they act as a single monolithic mirror. How about that? and you thought you had troubles getting up in the morning and getting ready.
I know, right?
I'm finding as I get old, I have problems with shaky hands. I don't know how you get that lined up. Just saying. So that's what's going on with the Webb telescope. It's in place and ready to go, and it's getting ready for us to find new life out there in the universe. So
very cool.
That's very cool indeed. Let's take a break. When we come back, we've got all kinds of interesting stories for you. If we can get the story up, we may talk about Havana syndrome. We also have stories about Mummy. Aw, Mummy. And much, much more. You're listening to the best in paranormal podcasting. It's a Supernatural News Wednesday here on Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis, and coming along for the ride this Wednesday is supernatural wrestling superstar Mallie Fox. Yeah. I'm just going to needle that point a little bit longer. That's it. Welcome aboard, Mallie. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
We got all kinds of stories here about mummies and all kinds of stuff, and supernatural stuff, and let's get into it. Let's dive into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's do.
We're going to meet Chupacabra. That's an interesting name.
Very.
Yep. Scientists reconstruct the face of a female mummy who died 2,600 years ago, revealing she was probably a beautiful young lady despite having a set of protruding teeth.
There's nothing wrong with protruding teeth.
I know. Why would you put that in an article?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some reporters.
Someone was jealous.
I know. Some reporters are so vain. Mm-hmm. A forensic reconstruction of the face of a female mummy who died 2,600 years ago reveals a beautiful young lady with deep brown eyes and slightly protruding upper teeth. So she was good at eating corn. Who cares? Just saying. Scientists have spent months recreating the construction of what they call the most famous Egyptian mummy in Switzerland. Switzerland had mummies?
Apparently.
Huh. I didn't know that. Known as Chupacabra or Chepanese. Chepanese? Using CT scans and morphological data from her skeleton, Chupacabra was found in 1819 at Deir el-Bahri, which is a famous complex of mortuary temples and tombs located on the west bank of the Nile River in Egypt. Why was she Swiss? Oh, she was transported to Switzerland in 1820. That's why.
We probably should have read that first.
Yeah, I'm like, how did she become... Huh? The Swiss had mummies? The remains are currently kept in the Sao Gallo Abbey Library, which is very, very South American for a Swiss city in St. Gallen. I don't know. The Swiss are very continental. I'm finding this out. I'm learning something today, Mallie. Bear with me as I learn along with you. Inscriptions on her sarcophagus suggest that she belonged to a wealthy upper-class family and would have had some degree of formal education during her existence in the 7th century BC. She was the daughter of a priest in the city of Thebes, according to experts, and lived in the late period, the early 26th dynasty in the late heyday of ancient Egypt, prior to her death by 610 BC. However, it's not possible to identify the name or profession of Chupacabra husband or whether or not she gave birth to children. Well, they certainly went over her teeth. They didn't go over the other end.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if you were doing like an ancestry or the 23andMe or whatever test, and then they're like, oh, you're related to, some famous mummy, I don't know. I think that would be kind of cool. Because meanwhile, you just think, I was from the Highlands area of Scotland or something, and here you're like actually related to someone.
You're related to Chupacabra.
Yeah. I mean, that would be super cool. You can go visit her.
What would you say? I mean, I'm curious. I want to know, honestly, what you would say to Shephanisis if you were related to her.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say anything, but I mean, just to like have something tangible, you know?
Yeah. Well, like, I know people, I've read comments where people get tired of hearing about my ancestry, but like I don't know how many times removed great auntie was Joan of Arc.
Yeah. No, see, that is cool. But, you know, you have people that do like past life regressions. Oh, I was once Cleopatra, and be like, listen, fool, I'm actually related to Shep.
That sounds like you're related to one of the Three Stooges.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I know what you're saying. But yeah,
I just think it would be cool.
I wonder if you know, Joan of Arc is a patron saint of radio.
Oh, really?
But she never had one.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It's one of the deep thoughts I have at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Maybe because she heard voices. I think that's probably why she's a patron saint of radio. I never quite got that one. You know?
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I'm curious why they would say that. Yeah, it would have to be something to do with voices or care. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, right?
Transmitting voices. I don't know. That's weird.
Bizarre.
But that's cool, though.
Yeah, it is. The reconstruction project on Shephanisis was conducted by FAPAB Research Center in Sicily. Pardon me.
Did you just hiccup?
I did. I'm drinking this time of day. Day drinking's always fun. Hold on a second here. I'm trying to get my my diaphragm in order, if you know what I mean. The FAPAB Research Center in Sicily and Flinders University in Australia, in collaboration with Cicero Moraes, a 3D designer in Brazil. Boy, they are continental with this deal. Moraes has previously created a series of facial reconstructions of historical figures such as Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ. Well, they're all over the place, aren't they? Huh. It was commissioned by the Abbey Library of St. Gall, which had owned the CT, or computerized tomography scans of the mummy for years. The harmonious and well-proportioned skull suggests that, wow, they are really, really judging her, aren't they? Judgy McJudgerton. The harmonious and well-proportioned skull suggests that Shephanisis was probably a beautiful lady, Mallie, is what they're saying during her lifetime. Judgy McJudgertons.
I know, kind of superficial, huh?
Right.
It's what's on the inside, not on the outside.
That's right. She was probably a very beautiful lady on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Mentioned in the first reports from 1820 after her discovery is the good and complete preservation of the teeth, the team say, which is one of her most notable physical features in the reconstruction. The team built up the living layers bit by bit, adding tissue, eyes, skin, before the fine details such as hair and tiny freckles around the nose to complement the effect. Shephanisis was found in a family tomb located within the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Hatshepsut in Deir el-Bahari Temple, along with her father, Pa-Es Chenfi, I believe, whose mummy is Berlin. Oh, the band Berlin. They were great in the 80s. Based on Shephanisis' anatomical age and the style of her inner coffin, she must have been born around 650 BC and died between 620 and 610 BC. So she was pretty young. So there you go. Due to her mummified ear, the shape of her ear could be reconstructed quite accurately, in contrast to pure skeletons, where her ears are reconstructed with a generic ear. So they don't quite have the ear there. But the way they have her reconstructed, she kind of looks a little bit like Sinead O'Connor. I don't know that they actually did the right job. I think they just took a picture of Sinead O'Connor and put her up there. That poor Shephanisis. Just saying. Yeah. Okay, we move on. enough of Shephanisis, so to speak. So we were talking before about Havana syndrome, and I did a show with Frank Milburn on True Crime Tuesday, and we were talking a little bit before the show about Havana syndrome. And basically, the way it works, or the way that Frank described it, is that Russia is the main country that's using Havana syndrome, and it's used by either using RF energy from your phone or your router to cook you alive from the inside, or by using microwaves to cook you from the inside. And it's being used against, Russia basically uses it against their own people or their own spies, or against...
Oh, no.
Or they use it against our diplomats or our aerospace engineers or people that they're targeting to slow down our programs. Typically right now it's being used against our people to slow down certain programs within our country. The CIA, however, came out with a report this past week that has determined that a foreign country is probably not mounting a global attack aimed at U.S. personnel who have reported painful and sometimes debilitating physical symptoms, a significant finding that could undermine some officials' suspicion that Russia is to blame for a years-long series of mysterious illnesses. A senior CIA official stressed that the agency's investigation continues, but the interim finding drew swift criticism from people who say that they were victimized and accused the agency of trying to prematurely close the case. Some officials and lawmakers urge patience while the investigation continues and seem to distance themselves from the CIA's conclusions. We assess it as unlikely that a foreign actor, including Russia, is conducting a sustained worldwide campaign harming U.S. personnel with a weapon or mechanism, said a senior CIA official, speaking on the condition of anonymity under ground rules set by the agency. That leaves open the possibility that a foreign power could be responsible for cases that cannot be attributed to medical conditions or other factors, the official said. Since the first cases of personnel suffering from symptoms include dizziness and headaches that were reported at the U.S. Embassy in Havana in 2016, government investigators have reviewed more than 1,000 cases of what officials have termed anomalous health incidents. The symptoms, which were accompanied by sensations such as ringing in the ears, have come to be commonly known as Havana syndrome and have been reported by intelligence, diplomatic, and military personnel on every continent except Antarctica, which is strange. The majority of cases could be attributed to a pre-existing medical condition or environmental or other factors. The senior official said a few dozen of these incidents, which the official called the toughest cases, could not be explained and will receive further scrutiny. The official said, "Our work is continuing and we are not done yet." But other U.S. officials said the category of unexplained cases were larger than a few dozen and noted that other investigations are pending, including a panel of independent experts and other government agencies, and they might reach different conclusions than those of the CIA. On last Wednesday evening, a group whose members think they and some other family members were attacked rejected the agency's findings. The CIA's newly issued report may be labeled interim, and it may leave the door open for some alternative explanation in some cases, but to scores of dedicated public servants, their families, and their colleagues, it has a ring of finality and repudiation. That, according to the group Advocacy for Victims of Havana Syndrome, as they put that in a statement. The CIA declined to comment on that statement as well. The rollout of the report caught some officials at other agencies by surprise, said one U.S. official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, of course, to describe internal communications. The official said other agencies were not adequately informed before the CIA briefed Congress. The official added that while there was no substantive, I can't say the word, substantive, you know what I mean, disagreement with the agency's finding, the conclusion that most of the reported cases could be explained by medical or environmental factors was still likely to complicate the effort at the State Department and other agencies to better support employees who have reported problems and improve medical care. It could also be making it more difficult to implement having problems here, Mallie, a law signed by President Biden last year, which would compensate victims of anomalous health incidents. A CIA official said the agency has worked in lockstep with other government agencies on this rigorous investigation. These interim findings were well coordinated within the intelligence community. On Thursday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken addressed the CIA report in a letter to the State Department employees obtained by the Washington Post. He went on to say these findings do not call into question the fact that our colleagues are reporting real experiences and are suffering real symptoms, Blinken wrote, echoing assurances from the CIA that the agency is focused on providing medical care to anyone who is suffering. But Blinken didn't endorse the CIA's conclusion, which he attributed to our colleagues in the intelligence community and described only as an assessment of a global sustained campaign against many U.S. personnel, which is quite interesting. Really interesting story, and one that I'm sure we'll follow up on another day with Frank Milburn and some other interesting people that we'll bring on the show in a different capacity. It's a terrifying story. It really is, and the technology that's out there that can be used for evil and not necessarily good is kind of terrifying as well. Should we talk about Saturn's ice moon?
Sure.
You know, we've been talking about different planets we could terraform because evidently we're afraid of what might potentially happen to this planet. You know, we had an asteroid that whizzed by our planet. It was pretty close. It wasn't close enough to cause any damage, but there was a little bit of a scare. I believe it was last week. But Saturn's innermost moon, which, believe it or not, resembles the Death Star from Star Wars, may be a stealth ocean world, according to some new research. Mimas, M-I-M-A-S, or Mimas, one or the other, is the smallest and closest to Saturn of the ringed planet's 82 moons. How would you love to have 82 moons? Imagine the tides on your planet if you had 82 moons.
Be so messed up.
It would be. It may contain a liquid internal ocean. If Mimas has an ocean, it represents a new class of small stealth ocean worlds, which surfaces that do not betray the ocean's existence, said study author Alyssa Roden, a scientist, Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, said in a statement. The study published last week in the journal Icarus. Mimas was first discovered in 1789 by English astronomer William Herschel as a tiny dot near Saturn. The Voyager probes imaged the small moon in 1980, and NASA's Cassini mission conducted flybys of it while studying Saturn between 2004 and 2017. The moon is only 115,000 miles. That's it, Mallie, just that far away from Saturn. And it takes just over 22 hours to complete one orbit around the planet. Mimas is covered in craters, but the largest one is 80 miles across and gives the moon its distinctive Death Star appearance. I'm sure it loves being compared to the Death Star. I'm just saying. Scientists have long been intrigued by Mimas because it likely is made mostly entirely of ice craters scattered across the moon, and it suggests that its surface has remained frozen for a long time. However, before the Cassini mission came to an end in 2017, it detected an oscillation in its moon's rotation that suggested that Mimas may contain a subsurface ocean. Our solar system is home to multiple ocean worlds, or moons, where oceans exist beneath thick ice shells, including Jupiter's moon, Europa, and Saturn's moons, Titan and Enceladus, I believe. Right?
You're asking me?
I don't know. I figured maybe you have many vacation homes here, Mallie. I mean,
I just have one.
I figured you had a vacation moon on Enceladus.
No.
No? Okay. These differ from Earth, which is at the right distance from the sun to include liquid water oceans on its surface. Interior water ocean worlds, or IWOWs, in case you're looking to buy property on an IWOW. Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be a hot property, Mallie. Just saying. Are much further from the sun, but they could still support life within their oceans. Because the surface of Mimas is heavily cratered, we thought it was just a frozen block of ice, said Roden. These guys have exciting jobs, Mallie. Can you tell?
Yeah.
We just thought it was a block of ice. No big deal. Roden Roden is actually the co-leader of NASA's Network for Ocean Worlds Research Coordination Network. IWOWs such as Enceladus and Europa tend to be fractured and show other signs of geologic activity. Turns out Mimis's surface was tricking us, that damn Mimis, and our new understanding has greatly expanded the definition of a potentially habitable world. My new favorite word, by the way. Habitable. Habitable. In our solar system and beyond. Mimis is tidally locked, as in tidal wave, not tidal as in entitled. Tidally locked in its orbit around Saturn, meaning that the same side of the moon always faces the planet, like our moon as it orbits Earth. The researchers believe a phenomenon called tidal heating allows for the subsurface ocean to exist on Mimis. I think we kind of get the idea. There's tidal heating here, which is a great name for a heating and air company. Just saying. But there may be ice on Mimis, just so you know. I'll leave it at that.
Okie dokie.
Are you sleeping back there, Mallie?
No, I'm not sleeping.
No? Okay. Let's wake you up a little bit then here. It's a SETI astrophysicist promises humans will encounter aliens by 2036. Are you ready?
Yeah, but I think that people have already encountered aliens.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah. According to this astrophysicist, humans will meet representatives of intelligent alien civilization in 2036. Evidently, he's narrowing down the actual year. This prediction was made by astrophysicist Seth Shostak from the SETI Institute, and he told that to Popular Mechanics this past week. The expert conclusion is based on the fact that every few years, the power of computers doubles, which will help people find extraterrestrial civilizations. In order to analyze huge amounts of data received from space, significant computing resources are needed, so it can be assumed that with the development of computers, analysis will be seriously accelerated, he explained. By 2036, computers will be powerful enough to be able to find technology signatures that point to aliens, or they'll just take us over, whip us, beat us, and make us their slaves. I'm just saying, Mallie. I still believe that, you know.
Do you think they ever just like sit back, these aliens, and they just look at us and they're like, we're like the hillbilly white trash, like cousins of the universe or something, and they're just like, oh, it's about time.
We're the redneck hillbilly inbred
just like
of the universe.
Finally they got the technology to communicate with us. They just sat back and watched. They're like, watch this, crap show or something.
I think
that's
they do.
Another word, but can't. But you know what I mean? It's just like we're their entertainment.
I think South Park nailed it perfectly when they said that we're the reality TV show of the universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just sometimes I think they just sit back and like, oh, good God.
Yeah, I think they do.
Mm-hmm.
It says here in this article, techno-signatures are what we humans would recognize as signs of technologically advanced activity. The best known example is radio signals, which SETI researchers, I also think we're beaming old technology to them too. I think they're probably light years away from radio signals, and they're probably not even listening. The best known example is radio signals, which SETI researchers have spent the past few decades searching for, but there are many other signatures that have not been explored fully, and more are being conceived of all the time. These include laser emissions, which could be used for optical communications or as a means of propulsion, signs of megastructures, which some believed were the reason behind the mysterious dimming of Tabby's star, or an atmosphere full of carbon dioxide, methane, CFCs, or other known pollutants. We have to study millions of star systems to find traces of an advanced alien civilization, the astrophysicist said. However, the researchers note, even if people manage to catch an alien signal, this does not mean that they will be able to establish communication with aliens. But 2036, that's what we're naming. We're aiming for that deal right there. There's a new study out there, Mallie, that casts doubt on the fact that the Loch Ness Monster is a plesiosaur.
Is a what?
A plesiosaur. That means that basically if you're in a bad mood, this dinosaur wants to do the best to please you.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. The Loch Ness Monster is a people pleaser.
Okay. Well, aren't we all?
I think to an extent. Some people aren't. I think some people are kind of... You have your narcissists and you have your plesiosaurs.
Okay.
Right. The famous Scottish Loch Monster... I went B-52s there. Sorry, it's just my own head. Is often said to be a plesiosaur, but just how plausible is that? Well, the quintessential Loch Ness Monster sighting is typically that of a large, long-necked creature that appears to have a head and neck, don't we all? Or as... That's just the stupidest way to write this article. I'm sorry. Or a series of humps protruding from the water. Over the years, this has led to some to speculate that the creature could be a plesiosaur, a type of prehistoric aquatic reptile, as depicted by an oft-photographed model that could be found outside the Loch Ness Exhibition Center at... I've never been there before. I don't know the name of the city, and I don't want to mispronounce it because I don't want emails. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying, Mallie? Oh,
no. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. Drumna, Drokit, son of a bitch. I don't know. I got no clue. On the western shore of the loch, that place, we'll just call it the Loch Ness Exhibition Center. Yeah. Casting aside for a moment the fact that plesiosaurs went extinct millions of years ago, is it at all possible or plausible that the Loch Ness Monster could be such a relic from the distant past? Well, according to Dr. Paul Schofield at Canterbury Museum in New Zealand, a recent study of Elasmosaurus. Elasmosaurus? Now you tell me, Mallie, what's an Elasmosaurus?
I didn't even know what the other one was. Why would I know what this one is?
I thought dinosaurs were your specialty. Are they not?
Yeah. When has that ever been said?
Evidently, an Elasmosaurus.
Mallie and dinosaurs have never been in the same sentence.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. An Elasmosaurus is evidently a type of plesiosaurus. Evidently, this is stuff like 10-year-olds who love the science museum.
Yeah. Totally or if I was Ross from Friends.
Yeah, exactly. So the recent study of the Elasmosaurus, which is a type of plesiosaur, has indicated that these creatures would have held their heads either at the same level or below the level of their bodies while swimming through the water. This makes it unlikely that they would have stuck their head vertically up out of the water, as often depicted in photographs and drawings of the elusive Loch Ness Monster. The labyrinth of the ear works best when the tiny bones within are able to hang unaffected by gravity, said Dr. Schofield. For this reason, the position of the inner ear within the skull of an animal reveals a lot about how an animal habitually, not habitably, but habitually, holds its head. We have examined the inner ear of the elasmosaurs and determined that their resting position was with the head horizontal to the body or even well below the body. The traditional posture shown in many a popular article on Nessie, like a sock puppet, is not something elasmosaurs were in the habit of adopting. The idea of it lifting its head up like a sock puppet is extremely unlikely. I think we found the idea for a new touring show here, Mallie. The Loch Ness Monster Sock Puppet Show. I'm just saying, I think it would draw big time. I think people would come out for the show. I think they would, I think they'd love it. That's just me.
I think that is just you.
I think you're right. Are you ready for some truly gross stories here?
Lay it on me. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. There's a couple of articles out there I found this week about people's fascination with death, Dracula, and dead bodies.
Okay.
All right. There's an article out there that talks about cannibalism and necrophagy and the origins of it.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to get into some of this.
Can you just give like the
highlights?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. So there's an article that talks about a little bit about cannibalism and the origins of it from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
So the character Renfield from Bram Stoker's Dracula admitted the importance of blood, saying that the blood is the life. The idea is not new, for example. Maya kings attempted to obtain the goodwill of the gods by giving blood offerings. Throughout history, there have existed enough tribes which practice ritual hematomophagy, which is blood consumption as a food source, and cannibalism, eating other humans. Traditions which have given shape to the images of certain mythological entities, such as the werewolf, the wendigo, or the vampire. Beyond cannibalism, it is known that numerous rituals implied the consumption of the blood. Give me just a second here. There we go. But in history, there have also been rituals which involve the practice of necrophagy. In certain tribes, when a relative died, the descendants had to consume its lifeless body in its entirety. This is where it gets a little hairy. Not going to lie to you. This article keeps...
Because I thought that they just did that, like the cannibalism and stuff to kind of... They did that to... Didn't they think it was almost like magical, or they got this power...
Yeah, you get power from
for doing it right,
consuming the heart, so to speak. In certain tribes, when a relative died, the descendants had to consume its lifeless body in its entirety. This ritual could go on for days, and sometimes the corpse began to putrefy.
That's just gross.
Yeah, despite this aspect, the descendants consumed everything to take into themselves the knowledge and the power of the deceased relative, such that the spiritual energies of the ancestors were not lost. A strange ritual continues to be practiced in certain areas of India. On a certain day of the year, the ones who have deceased relatives buried in the cemetery go in the morning to the temple, where they inhale a smoke resulted from the burning of a special mixture of plants and substances. After the state of ecstasy is achieved, the priest leads those who have come to the temple to the cemetery. They're the people who unearth their deceased relatives with their hands, and they will bite and chew pieces of the corpses.
Ugh.
Yeah. The explanation of this ritual consists in the idea that each bite will get the soul of the deceased closer to eternal peace faster. I don't see how that happens. And it's not only rituals that have a link to hematophagy. It's a hard word for me to say. Cannibalism and necrophagy. On the globe, there's also a multitude of legends which talk about supernatural beings which feed on human blood and flesh. Greek and Roman mythology mentions beings named, I believe is this Lamia or Lernia? Lamia. It's small print. And I'm old. Styxes or Strixes and Empuzae, which consume blood to survive. Aside from the fact that the Strix and Lamia preferred the fresh blood of children and newborns, the Strix could also feed on the blood of young men. In addition, Greeks also mentioned in their legend some feminine entities who came during the individual's sleep to suck on this blood. Ooh, this is just getting nasty. There are also religions which forbid any form of blood consumption. Islamic law talks about the term najis, which defines that which is impure in the context of religious rituals. Najasat being the ritual impurity which can be removed by cleansing through fasting and prayer. The Quran mentions in its turn impurity prohibiting in any form the consumption of blood. To consume blood or food prepared with it is haram, which is a sinful act. In the Judaic tradition, blood is washed completely away with great care from meat before cooking it. The argument which upholds this custom is encountered in the Leviticus, where it is mentioned that it is not allowed to consume blood because the life of the animal is in the blood. With regards to the Christian religion in this context, again, it jumped around on me real quick. This website is jumpy. With regards to the Christian religion in this context, a type of ritual hematophagy, there we go, appears. The Eucharist implies the idea that the wine used usually becomes the blood of Christ, which is then consumed by believers. The consumption of human blood is rejected as a taboo activity and related to cannibalism. In the 5th book of the New Testament, it is stated that you abstain from what is been sacrificed to idols, and from blood, and from what has been strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you keep yourselves, and again, the article jumps. As for ritual hematophagy from the context of the Eucharist, this is justified as being a spiritual nourishment. Christian mythology also includes references to the chalice used by Christ at the Last Supper, known under the name of the Holy Grail. In this receptacle, the blood of Christ has been collected during the crucifixion, and the legends say that all those who drink from this chalice should become immortal. There's one other deal having to do with the Wendigo. Professor Basil Johnston offered a presentation of a Wendigo, describing it as the following. The Wendigo was gaunt at the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into its sockets. The Wendigo then looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering from suppuration of the flesh. The Wendigo then gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. In this way, the Wendigo symbolizes the idea of greed and excess, especially through the fact that it can never be satisfied regardless of how much it has killed and eaten. The Wendigo is counted among the most terrifying beings. It is a cannibal spirit which can induce the state of possession. After this possession, the individual takes the physical form of a monster, him going to satisfy the cannibal tendencies of the entity. It is believed that the ones who practice cannibalism can be possessed much easier by a Wendigo, and the ones who kill a human and consume his heart can become, in their turn, a Wendigo. Some Russian nomads had the habit of drinking the blood of the first enemy fallen in battle, and Mongols sometimes fed on horse blood to survive. Even the locals from the Caribbean were adepts of cannibalism, feeding on human organs and flesh. Today, cannibalism is still encountered in the Korowai population from New Guinea and in Melanesia. It's kind of interesting stuff, but at the same time, it's a little gory.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. I don't think I'd ever be able to do it. So,
yeah, I'm not knocking back blood shooters at happy hour. Just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, remember what was it, the 1970s when that plane crashed and the guys ate each other?
Oh yeah, yep.
Over the Andes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would be one of them that they would have to eat, because I don't think I'd be able to do it to survive.
You're not doing the old. What do they call them? It's the something party. I don't remember the last name. I'm sure somebody's going to email us and tell us.
Right, because was it soccer that they played, or rugby? No, I think it was.
Was soccer. It rugby? You might be close on rugby. Rugby or soccer?
Rugby.
One of the, yeah. Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
I'm a texture person. Wouldn't be able to get over it.
Texture. Well, you could build a fire and cook, I suppose, if you could find a lighter.
Lighter.
You're hoping at that point somebody's a smoker. I'm just saying, Another interesting, gruesome article here, Mallie. Don't ever drive drunk in Taiwan, because then your punishment is having to clean a funeral parlor.
Ooh. But you know what? That's a good punishment, though.
Could be.
Well, I mean, hopefully it would scare them straight.
You would think.
Or scare them sober, I guess you would say.
Yeah, you would think. Authorities in Kaohsiung, I'm trying to get the pronunciation down, Kaohsiung City in Taiwan have come up with an ingenious way of getting drunk drivers to reflect on their behavior. They are now required to clean funeral parlors in order to feel what it's like being close to death. Oh, That is scared straight right there.
Mm-hmm.
Last month, Kaohsiung was rocked by a car accident caused by a drunk driver, which left one family dead, 3 other people injured. Mayor Chen Ki-mai announced that those convicted of drunk driving or deferred prosecution should perform social labor service at local funeral parlors as punishment. A few days ago, the first batch of 11 drunk drivers went to Kaohsiung City funeral management office to accept their punishment and spent hours cleaning the mortuary, refrigeration unit, and the crematorium. Boy, that is hardcore punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I wiped the door of the freezer and realized that there may be human corpses inside, one of the people accused of drunk driving said. I had never been so close to death, and it felt disturbing. I really need to be careful when driving in the future, and I should not drink and drive on the road, this particular person went on to say. Whoops. And then my story. Where'd my story?
Because I thought that like out in LA or other cities that people with drunk driving had to go to like the, not mortuaries, but like the city. I'm drawing a blank. Like where the examiner, the mortuary, like they had to go to the.
Oh, the medical examiner's office?
Yeah. Like they had to go there and they were, look at unfortunately, the deceased.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Civil Affairs Secretary Yan Qingzi said that the city government strictly implements zero-tolerance measures for drunk driving. Authorities hope that through the implementation of labor services and experience such as cleaning funeral parlors, locals will be vigilant about themselves, respect the lives of others, put an end to drunk driving, improve road safety, and respect the rights and interests of passersby. After 4 hours of labor education, the 11 drink driving offenders expressed their deep remorse for their actions and swore to never drink and drive again. I don't dare do it again, one of them said. That's a different kind of... It's better than sitting in a classroom and just, twiddling your thumbs, I guess.
Right. No, I agree. But I'm curious to know, like, what would happen if they did a follow-up, like, 6 months later? Did it really hinder them from drinking, or was it just like at that moment they're like, no?
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, it would be easy to follow up on that and see if they still had a kind of a laissez-faire attitude about the situation. I gotta think though, scrubbing out the inside of a freezer and cleaning a crematorium, I just, man, yeah. I know that would creep me out enough to change my ways. Mm-hmm. I know that much. That's for sure. A couple of stories left today on Supernatural News. I'm trying to see here which one I want to hit you with here, Mallie. Let's talk about a ghost story. We haven't really gotten to ghost stories yet here today. This one has to do with hidden footage of a captured ghost of a soccer player. Speaking of soccer players, we were talking about just a soccer player just a moment ago. A footballer, as they call it across the pond, George Best. Hidden footage captures the ghost of George Best, which ex-wife says she is haunted by. It's actually his ex-wife. As one of the best footballers who ever lived, George Best famously ghosted past defenders as if they weren't there. Now his ex-wife, Alex, has revealed she believes he could still be ghosting around, but this time as a spirit in her Surrey home. Since the footy star's death, I love speaking like that in an American accent because it drives you nuts. Since the footy star's death 16 years ago, model Alex has experienced strange phenomena and goings-on, which she has never been able to explain. Items vanishing from sight only to reappear in the middle of a room many months later. Heavy furniture moving, lights flicking on and off again, and the TV suddenly bursting into life with no human interference. I'm convinced spirits have come to visit my 200-year-old home, she says, and now I think George could be one of them. Indeed, the star's first ever spooky experience came on the day Manchester United icon George was buried on December 3rd of 2005 after his death at age 59. On the day of George's funeral, I was staying at a hotel in Belfast, recalls Alex. I remember it was An early start that day, and obviously it was very emotional. Just as I was leaving through the hotel door, the shower turned on full blast on its own. Determined to get to the bottom of the ghostly goings-on at the former farm worker's cottage where she lives, Alex enlisted the help of paranormal professionals from Discovery Plus's new TV documentary series. It's easy to say, Mallie, It really is. Celebrity Help My House is Haunted. In an astonishing moment caught on camera, a book by itself shoots out from the back of a shelf by about 6 inches. When investigator Barry Guy looks, he finds it's an unauthorized biography of George Best. It's kind of creepy. I don't think that's a coincidence, says Alex, who turns 50 later this month. I've got so many books on that bookshelf. I've got books on films, antiques, all different biographies and autobiographies. And yet the book that shot out was George's. That moment made me realize and think that he could have been one of the spirits. The team tell Alex it's highly unusual to capture such apparently startling supernatural movements on camera. That is, they say, unless the spirit wants to attract attention. Are you surprised that George made an appearance of that nature? Barry asks her. No, she laughs. Not at all, cheeky monkey. Something like that would be typical George, added Alex. Before that point, I thought the spirit had just been a child because it was mischievous and playful. But George was mischievous as well. He always was playing around and trying to make people laugh. The model turned property developer was married to George for 10 years before their divorce came through in 2005. Says the couple has always had a strong connection. Even though there were difficult times, of course, and we'd separated by the end, we were always friends and I always loved him, says Alex. I still do. We'd never discussed what we thought about ghosts and things like that because I'd always been very skeptical about these things until all this began. But George and I had a spiritual side and a strong faith. He kept a Bible by the side of his bed, and as a couple, we'd always had a very strong connection, but you want people that you love to have moved on. So in a way, I hope George hasn't been one of those spirits that have visited me, but I'm open to the fact that he might be. Recalling the many spine-tingling moments she's experienced at her cottage, which was built around 1820 in an area Alex says has links to the ancient Druids. She says there have been loads of little things over the years, things that will disappear when I'm looking for them, and then they'll suddenly turn up months and months later in a really obvious place like the middle of the floor. I woke up a few years ago to find a huge, heavy sideboard dragged into the middle of the room. It's made from railway sleepers, and it's so heavy that every time I've ever moved house, the removal men have cursed me. Yet here it was dragged from the side to the center of the room with carpet indentations left on the floor where it had been. I had to call my dad to help me drag it back. As she describes the lights switching themselves on and off again and the telly going on by itself, she's quick to clarify that, yes, she's had the electrics checked. The electrician couldn't understand what was going on, she says. There was no explanation for it. And adds Alex, she's not the only one to have experienced supernatural stirrings at her home. A former farm worker's cottage, which sits in the heart of Kingswood, an old village in the North Downs of Surrey that dates back to the days of the Domesday Book. She says her parents, friends, and her sister have witnessed paranormal activity too. Best pal Carol Mackey says she's 100% convinced that the former farmer's worker's cottage is haunted, as she shares a goosebump-making tale of her own. There was one night where we just sat and we were talking, and Alex suddenly was pointing behind me, she says. I was saying to her, "What are you pointing at?" She said, "I don't know." And I said, "Then stop pointing." She said, I can't move my hand. The next thing, I felt this huge rush, like tingling all over, like someone stood behind me with their hands on my shoulders. I felt an energy, and I felt tears well up in my eyes, and all of a sudden, I said, "Oh, it's gone now." I looked at Alex, and there were tears streaming down her face, and I think there was a presence in the house. Alex was pointing at the stairwell. It was such a strange experience, she recalls. It was as if I couldn't move my finger, like there was someone at my shoulders and someone behind Carol, too. We got really emotional out of nowhere, and both of us were crying. It lasted just a matter of seconds, and when it was over, we thought, What on earth was that? The stares have been strange. Even my Irish setter Finn stares at them sometimes, and it's quite unnerving. Local historian Lorraine Spindler has explained that Alex's cottage was once part of a complex of buildings known as Ahurst Farm, and reveals that a look back through the census uncovered an uncanny coincidence. George Best lived in the area in 1902 with the family of a William Best registered on the census in 1891. She says William could certainly have lived in Alex's cottage in the past, adding, sadly, they've lost one child by 1911. In one census, they have a little girl named Lily, says Jane. She doesn't appear in the next census. All of the other children do. So the assumption really is that she died tragically. She says Best is not a local name. That gave me goosebumps, says Alex. Elsewhere in the documentary, the team say they pinpointed two more supernatural voices, both adult males. The men they say are reaching out are named on the show as William. The man they say was Lily's father and footballer George. And then my browser just shut down. Talk about supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get the story back up here.
Well, I'm glad that they said that, they were still close even after their divorce. Because I was like, that is one thing I would never want to happen is either me haunting an ex because, oh, good God, I left him for a reason. Or, them haunting me because, ugh.
Well, that begs the question, I mean, it sounds like they left things on good terms, but...
Yeah, no, that's good.
But at the same time, it's kind of a sad situation because it sounds like they both were talking it out and they wanted to... They both wanted... They both thought that they were moving on, so to speak, and to think that maybe he didn't move on.
Yeah.
That he's still hanging around or trying to get her attention is a little sad too. So let's see if I can wrap this up here quickly. So it says here, however, despite the spooky goings on, Alex said she always had a good feeling about her home. The funny thing is, even with all the things that have happened here, I've always had a lovely feeling about the place. It's never felt scary or sinister to me. All the things that ever happened were only ever playful. It's always had a warm, cozy feeling. I miss when I'm not here. The team cleansed it, the team that came in to investigate on the show before they left. And it's felt really calm ever since. I've left the door open for spirits to return if they'd like. I don't know if that's a good idea. But I just hope that they can find some peace. Celebrity Help My House is Haunted is available to stream from Friday, January 21st, exclusively on Discovery Plus. So there you go. It's a little sad to think that, it could have been the one family that was the best from the 1800s, early 1900s, or it could be the husband. But I mean, either way, there's activity there. That's for sure. I had one more story here before we left today, and I'm trying to see if I can pull that thing up here. Of course, it had to do with robots, but got to leave you on robots. Here we go. And robot dogs, for that matter. I figured I'd combine my interest and your interest here, Mallie, before we left everybody today.
It's like chocolate and peanut butter.
Exactly. It says here, forget robot dogs. Chinese military develops an enormous robotic yak that is strong enough to carry up to 352 pounds and can sprint at 6 miles an hour. That's as far as I could get with dogs. It's a robotic yak. So it's almost like a cool pet, but not really. But it'll still turn on you and kill you. It's a robot. It's strong enough to carry up to 352 pounds and able to sprint up to 6 miles an hour. It's been developed by Chinese scientists. The robot can deal with all sorts of road and weather conditions, according to Chinese state-run People's Daily, which shared a video of the yak on a road. Why would you need a robotic yak, of all things? I don't know. Do you need a robotic yak by any chance, Mallie?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
I mean, you need anything carried from place to place there around the house? I mean, I don't really know if you do or not.
No, that's what kids are for.
That's right. The robot can deal with all sorts of road and weather conditions. Like I said, when deployed, it will join soldiers from the Chinese army on logistics and reconnaissance missions across complex environments. God, the missions will include working, and of course the browser closes down. I'm having a heck of a day.
You are not having any luck.
It's like somebody doesn't want me to see all this.
Right. It's the government.
It's the government. They've just it's Savannah.
They don't want you talking about the yak.
That's right. They don't want me talking about the Chinese robotic yak. I've uncovered their secrets. When deployed, it will join soldiers from the Chinese army on logistics and reconnaissance missions across complex environments, including snowfields, deserts, and mountains. The missions will include working in remote border regions as well as in high-risk combat zones, because a yak is the first thing I bring with me to combat. The robot comes with multiple sensors, giving it a high degree of situational awareness. That analysis can be fed into commanders in a battlefield environment, because real yaks can't handle that stuff. You can't whisper in a yak's ear, Mallie, and tell it to go give commands to a commander. I'm just saying. The Chinese robot walks on 4 legs and has a yak-like appearance. According to China Central Television, it is the world's largest and heaviest and most off-road capable yak ever. Beat that, Dodge. It's coming to a town near you, evidently.
It's going to be on the 2022 Christmas list for the new hot thing.
That's right. Get your kids a Chinese robot yak. Because the kids will love it. They can ride it like a surfboard or a scooter or even one of those little 2-wheel thingies that the kids ride. Yeah, give one for Christmas. It'll be hot. Just saying. And it'll tell your commander in the field what to do.
Apparently.
Yeah, it'll be good things, good times. So, Mallie, you got anything coming up that you want to promote?
Not at this moment. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think, and I have nothing going on. I'm just trying to survive each day.
That's what we're all promoting these days. Just want to promote.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, just want to promote that I'm out there and I'm surviving and try not to get the COVID.
Ugh.
Yeah, right.
I had it over the holidays. It sucked.
Which strain did you get?
I do not know.
Was it?
I just went and got tested, and they said you have it. Surprise!
I know they don't tell you what it is, do they?
No, they called me up and said, "Guess what? You have it." And I was like, "Oh, great!"
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I had it. I just went in because our kids were with people that had it.
Ooh.
So that's why we went in, just to make sure the kids were okay. And I was the one that got. I was the one that had it.
Not good. Not good
Right.
at all. Not good at all. Well, I'm glad you're surviving.
Oh, I am.
I'm glad that you're alive and well and got over the COVID. And I did too. I had it around Thanksgiving, and I know I had Delta. I didn't have any of the Omicron. I almost wish I would have got the Omicron, but it didn't happen. I get hit with a hard dose of Delta. But yeah, so we're glad you're alive and well, and hopefully you
Me
get
too.
Yeah.
Or I might be coming to haunt your ass.
Oh, well, please do. If you do, hang out here at the studio, and I'll try and EVP, and we'll get through some of these supernatural news deals.
Fantastic.
So we can put you on the spot and say you'll be back again to do another episode?
I would love to.
All right, sounds good. Well, then, for Mallie Fox, I'm Tim Dennis. Join us again for another episode in the future here of the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.